Hello, welcome to HiFi Whole, the HiFi podcast that prioritizes your listening pleasure. In this episode, I will be discussing my HiFi mistakes. It is a little bit like the last episode, my HiFi journey, however, much more abridged with some bonus mistakes thrown in. I think it's important to share my mistakes in a more accessible format, i.e., less long, so that you good people out there can hopefully avoid them. Have you made any mistakes that you would like to share? I mean, hi-fi or music-related mistakes? Then perhaps you'd like to drop us a line. Do you have any thoughts, comments, or questions? Any opinions on hi-fi in general, on music? Any album recommendations? Then you know what to do. Drop the podcast a note via email hifi-hole@biscuit.ninja. That's hifi-hole@biscuit.ninja. Or via Blue Sky. Mention or DM hifi-hole.bsky.social. One last time, that's hifi-hole.bsky.social. Before we get into the subject matter, we have our standing agenda items. First up, this episode's album recommendation. This episode, I'm going with Lambrini Girls and Who Let the Dogs Out, which was released in 2025. Yes, I think that's yet another album from 2025. Maybe I'm stuck there. Who knows? Lambrini Girls, they are a British punk rock band with, at the moment, 2 full-time members. They are Phoebe Lunny on lead vocals and guitar, and I really have tried to pronounce this several times, and I think Rolly got it wrong, he says, being polite, on every single occasion, and I'm sure this will be no different. But the bassist and bass guitarist and backing vocalist in the band is Celine, and I think this is Machira Bogelmus, or something like that. My apologies, Celine, if you're listening. The album, it explores themes such as police aggression, patriarchal society, sexual harassment, misogyny, homophobia, and the cost of living. It is loud, it is brash, it is shouty. In some ways, it's very traditional punk rock, and in other ways, not so. It has very sharp lyrics that cut to the quick, and I think it is excellently produced. With the exception of track 4, No Homo, which has some mellower harmonies, and that's relative, by the way, let's say relatively mellow harmonies, Phoebe and Slin's contagious energy is felt on all the tracks. It is like a marathon run at a sprinter's pace. Okay, new music. This is new music that has arrived to HiFi Whole HQ on physical media since the last episode. We have one long-playing vinyl record, and that is Dire Straits' self-titled album that was first released in 1978. It's a recent remaster, manufactured in France. I don't know whether it's any good yet. I will find out shortly. But this particular pressing has certainly split opinion, with some people rating it and some people not rating it. We'll soon see. Then final standing agenda item. Apologies, my phone is interrupting the podcast. Naughty phone. Let's not have that. My apologies. Okay, yes, hi-fi and gear updates. Not really much to speak of since the last episode. You may notice that I sound slightly different. Not necessarily better, but hopefully not worse. I have a new microphone. I forget the details of it right now, but I will include some details in the show notes for those whom are interested. Now, without further ado, it is time for the main course. It is time to discuss this conversation's topic, my hi-fi mistakes. Right, I am going to present you with a numbered list of mistakes and give you a brief bit of detail on each one. There are 10 in all, just so you know how many are left. Mistake number 1: listening to the wrong people, or rather paying too much attention to one individual's opinion. I was deterred from buying second-hand speakers when I bought a second-hand amp, second-hand CD player and second-hand tuner for my very first HiFi by someone who said second-hand speakers were a bad idea. I should not have listened to them. Now I am the owner of a particularly fine set of second-hand speakers that cost me just 22% of their recommended retail price. If I'd have ignored that particular person, I think when I bought my first HiFi, I'd have ended up something with some speakers that were a lot better than the cheapest speakers that I could afford to buy new at that time. Okay, mistake number 2: not obtaining spousal/partner approval. Yes, the story here, again, is speaker related. My first proper set of speakers that came after that very cheap new set. I sought my wife's permission, but I didn't really give her the time to warm up to the idea. So my poor beleaguered wife, she answered sarcastically, yes, and I took it at face value and went and bought those speakers. It was a bit of a surprise to her when those 2 big boxes turned up. It might not necessarily be your spouse. It could be anyone whom you share a house with and financial interests, or a financial interest. It's not worth ruining a relationship over a hi-fi purchase. So discuss it. Let your spouse or partner or cohabitee know what you're doing, not only in terms of the cost, but also in terms of the noise and the space. Right, moving swiftly on. Mistake number 4: misdiagnosing faults. In my case, a static-like noise was heard through my speakers, and I incorrectly attributed it to an amplifier going faulty. In the end, it was fixed by mains filtering, but not before I'd already bought another amplifier, another less good amplifier, having sold what I thought was a faulty amplifier, spares or repair. If you experience a problem, don't be rushing to reach a diagnosis. Make the effort to rule out all the possible causes before you arrive at the most expensive diagnosis. When you think you have determined what the problem is, get a second opinion. Go online. Check in some groups. Check on a forum. Ask on Blue Sky. You never know. You might find someone very knowledgeable and very helpful. Right, moving on. Trying not to dwell too much on any of these, and you have no idea how hard that is for someone like me. Right, mistake number 5: spending money upgrading hi-fi components and ignoring the listening room. Beyond a certain point, which comes very early on in terms of hi-fi spending, in my humble opinion, the listening space has more effect on sound quality than the speakers, the amps, or the sound sources. Oftentimes, I think the investment that people are tempted to make into amplifiers and speakers and CD players and streamers and turntables could be better put into other things. For example, changing furniture as to make it easier to move speakers into their optimal position, or changing furniture so that the listener can be moved into an optimal position. Improving the isolation of speakers and turntables. Yes, I don't necessarily mean spending £400 on a set of isolation feet. There are options that cost less than that. There are even some very good DIY options. And finally, there are acoustic treatments that can be applied to rooms. Now, I'm not necessarily suggesting that you go out and get a consultant in, although if you can afford to do that, bully to you. But you may want to look at a bass trap, or some sound absorbing panels, or some sound diffusing panels, or maybe just a heavy set rug, or a sturdier set of curtains. perhaps what you need is a room measurement microphone and a computer on which you can run room EQ. That's all a rabbit hole, so I'm going to leave it there and move on to mistake number 7. Quantity over quality. No, I mean quality over quantity. Yes, I did go for quantity over quality, and that was a mistake. It's quality first, quantity second. When I got my first HiFi up and running, I went all out adding cassette deck, mini disc deck, turntable, and subwoofer. Because I could. They were affordable. They were there. I wanted them. I sated myself. I think in hindsight that was a mistake. I should have sorted out the room first. I should have perhaps got appropriate speakers first. I should have perhaps changed my amplifier first. I should have made sure that the sources I had were good before adding more sources. Everyone's mileage, of course, may vary, and we're all stroked and motivated in different ways. So, this is just my advice. And you know what Baz Luhrmann says? Well, it wasn't Baz Luhrmann. I can't remember who originally wrote the speech, but quoting Baz Luhrmann's song, I think it's Sunscreen. Advice is just a form of nostalgia. Bear that in mind. Okay. Slight problem with the numbering system here, I've just noticed. We go from mistake number 7 to mistake number 9. So there is no mistake number 8. That in itself is a mistake. All right, mistake number 9. Number 8, sadly omitted. Getting too obsessed with the gear and using music to appreciate the hi-fi. Let me say that again. Getting too obsessed with the gear and using the music to appreciate the hi-fi. I think that's possibly problematic in some cases. I think it's more important to use the hi-fi to appreciate the music, and I think it is important we maintain a perspective. Otherwise, the compelling need to upgrade and not necessarily to any real benefit sets in. We really should concentrate on the music, learning what we like, learning what we don't like, learning more about the artists involved, learning a bit more about the music recording process, perhaps. I think all of those things are much healthier to obsess about than the actual gear itself, which really is just a means to an end. I do appreciate and I do like a nice hi-fi, don't get me wrong. And this piece of advice, outlining this mistake, that's as much for my benefit as it is yours. Okay. Lastly, but not leastly, mistake number 10. Don't covet and don't judge. What do I mean? Well, it is quite common, or perhaps at least not uncommon, for people to post pictures of their hi-fi online in groups, on forums, etc. And it's quite common for people to comment on those photographs. And sometimes for people with perhaps lower end systems, those comments can be a bit disparaging. And for people with expensive systems, those comments can be a little bit envious or disparaging even. I think it's important that we're respectful about it, number one. And number two, I think it's important that we do learn to be content with what we've got. I think a lot of us hi-fi music enthusiasts and or audiophiles, please delete as necessary, I think we can get a little bit too preoccupied with the gear and the next upgrade, and I think that stops us enjoying the music as much as we should. I mean, these last two mistakes are really related, but the what I'm talking about is elitism and reverse elitism, because people who make public comments about other people's systems, it's really off-putting to other people who perhaps are considering getting into hi-fi and music, particularly when people have posted their systems asking for feedback, advice, and recommendations. What I'm saying is, I guess, and if you're not, I mean, kudos to you if you are already, be constructive, be supportive, support your fellow hi-fi enthusiasts. Right, my voice is going, which I think means it's time to end this episode. Thank you for listening. Thank you for bearing with me. And once again, if you do have any feedback, please feel free to drop us a line by the already aforementioned methods. Have a great time until the next episode drops.